my bright yellow trekking pole, the one I'd used to brace myself crossing the creek just 10 minutes ago, is now sticking halfway out of a pile of fresh, steaming entrails in the middle of the path. This all happened last Tuesday, on that godforsaken loop trail in the White Mountains. My name is Matt. To celebrate finally quitting that soul-crushing finance job in Boston, I decided to treat myself to a 3-day solo hike. I'm not a rookie. I picked a trail I knew well, moderate difficulty, great views. I checked all my gear, registered at the ranger station, and texted my brother my itinerary. I did everything right. The first day was perfect. That crisp October air, the sky that blinding postcard blue. The forest smelled like damp earth and pine needles. It was quiet, just the crunch of my boots on the leaves and the sound of my own breathing. It was exactly what I needed. That isolated, absolute peace. I even made myself a hot coffee and watched the sun set behind a ridge called Eagle's Crag. I felt human again. The trouble started the second afternoon. I was on a gentle incline walking through a stand of white birch, and I saw it. On a branch, right at eye level, someone had tied a very complex knot out of bright red paracord. It wasn't a national park marker. Theirs are blue paint blazes. It wasn't a fellow hiker's either. It was too deliberate, too clean. I paused. Maybe some college outing club? I shrugged it off, a little uneasy, but kept moving. About half an hour later, I saw the second one. An identical red knot, hanging on the opposite side of the trail. This time my alertness kicked in. 20 minutes after that, a third. They were getting more frequent. This didn't feel right. It wasn't a coincidence anymore. It felt like they were calculating my speed. I started to walk faster, that feeling of peace completely gone, replaced by a prickling sensation of being watched. I stopped at a small stream, forcing myself to calm down. Maybe I was overreacting. I crouched, unscrewed my Nalgene, and filled it, dropping in a purification tablet. As I screwed the cap back on, I heard it, clear as day, from about 50 yards back in the woods. A loud, imitation crow call. Caw, caw, caw. It was too deliberate, too harsh. It wasn't a bird. It was a person. My blood ran cold. "Who's there?" I yelled, my voice shakier than I wanted. "This isn't funny." The only answer was silence. Just the whoosh of the wind through the treetops. I stood there for a few seconds, listening. Nothing. Just as I was about to turn, to tell myself I was imagining things, I heard the second call. This time, it came from the other side of the trail, and it was further away. There was more than one of them. Panic started to take over. I stopped pretending to be calm. I started to jog, my heavy pack thudding against my back. My only thought was to get to the next designated campsite, where there might be other people. The light was fading, turning the forest yellow and strange. I rounded a sharp bend and stopped dead, nearly tripping. And there it was, in the middle of the path, my bright yellow trekking pole. It must have slipped from my pack's side pocket when I crossed the creek 10 minutes back. I'd been too lazy to go back for it. Now it was planted like a mocking flag in a pile of bloody, steaming entrails. My stomach heaved. It was an animal, maybe a deer. The metallic, copper smell hit me. They were deliberately placed. A horrific offering. Next to the pile, a flat rock held down a corner of my own waterproof map. Scrawled on it in charcoal were 2 words. Wrong way. I didn't even hesitate. I turned and ran, back the way I came. That's when I heard it. Not crow calls, but excited, savage whoops. Heavy footsteps crashed through the woods on both sides of me. They had been waiting for me to see their marker. They weren't hiding anymore. 2 men burst from the trees. They were wearing ragged camo hunting gear, their faces smeared with thick black and brown mud. One was tall and thin, the other was built like a bull. The stocky one let out an excited, dog-like bark and lunged at me. He grabbed the strap of my backpack, and a massive force yanked me backward. I slammed onto the ground, my cheek cracking against a sharp rock. The pain and the coppery taste of blood in my mouth exploded. In that instant, all the fear turned into pure primal rage. I screamed, and with the one trekking pole I still had, I stabbed backward with all my strength. The tip hit something soft. The big man let out a pig-like squeal and let go. I scrambled to my hands and knees. On pure instinct, I unclipped my pack's chest and waist straps and shrugged it off. It was too heavy. "Get him!" the thin one yelled. I scrambled off trail, plunging straight down the steep embankment. Branches whipped my face and arms, but I couldn't feel the pain. All I heard was my own gasping breath and my heart hammering against my ribs. I saw a dense thicket of bushes ahead, thinking I could hide. I dove into it, but my right foot came down on something that shouldn't have been there. Snap! A sharp, metallic sound, followed by a wave of excruciating pain. My ankle was clamped in the rusty jaws of a hidden bear trap. The pain nearly made me black out. I fell, biting my lip to keep from screaming. I could hear them above me, crashing through the brush, cursing. He can't have gone far. I was dead. I looked down. The trap's teeth had bitten deep into my boot. My hands, trembling and caked with mud, fumbled for the spring arms. I pulled savagely, with a strength I didn't know I had. Adrenaline. I heard a metal groan, and the jaws released. I pulled my foot free, blood immediately soaking through my sock. They were getting closer. I saw the beam of a flashlight cut through the leaves above me. Stifling a sob, I crawled on the forest floor. I found a massive, hollow log. Without thinking, I slithered inside like a wounded animal. I lay there unmoving, in the dark space that smelled of rot and spiderwebs. I lay there and listened. I heard them crashing past my hiding spot, so close I could smell the sour stench of sweat and rot coming off them. I stayed in that log for hours. I don't know when they left. I just know I stayed there until the first cold, gray light of dawn filtered through the cracks. I finally dragged myself, delirious, back to the main road the next afternoon. A trucker picked me up. The police went back. They found my ransacked pack, food and water gone, but my wallet and phone were still there. They found the trap. They told me it was probably just some local mountain men, poachers who lived off the grid and messed with hikers. They never found the two men. I moved to the West Coast. I thought a change of scenery would help. I live in the suburbs now, far from any mountains. I don't hike anymore. I don't even go to the local park. But sometimes, like last night, when I'm taking the trash out, I swear I can hear it. From the small patch of woods at the end of the cul-de-sac. A faint, imitation crow call. Caw, caw, caw. This happened 4 years ago, right after I graduated college and decided to take a gap year. I went on a solo hiking trip into the deep parts of the Rocky Mountain State Parks. I'm an introverted person, a huge nature lover, and that feeling of total isolation was exactly what I was looking for, a kind of personal therapy. The campsite I chose was deep in the park, a good 3 miles off the nearest dirt road. My cell service was dead. It was just me, the trees, and the mountains. I spent the afternoon setting up my tent and building a small campfire. Late autumn had already brought a chill, but with the fire and my down jacket, it felt perfect, a beautiful, solitary experience. That quiet serenity, looking back, has an unsettling sweetness to it. It was around 7:30 p.m., and it was completely dark. I was leaning against a fallen log, toasting a marshmallow, soaking up the warmth. All I could hear was the low crackle of the fire and the distant drone of insects. Then I heard a sound. It wasn't an animal cry, nor was it the wind rustling the leaves. It was a sudden, distinct clang. The sound was jarringly close, like a heavy metal tool striking a stone, with a mechanical, weighted resonance. My heart immediately seized up. Instinctively, and with a speed and coolness I didn't know I possessed, I grabbed the water canteen nearby and drowned the campfire. The hiss of the fire dying was deafening in the silence. I held my breath, ears strained, trying to locate any more movement. Fear, like ice water, traced a path down my spine. That clang carried an industrial, deliberate quality that simply did not belong in that forest. I waited for what felt like 10 minutes, completely still. Besides the frantic hammering of my heart against my ribs, there was absolute silence. I grabbed my hiking pole, which was right next to me, and quietly retreated into the tent, zipping it shut. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a careless hiker dropped some gear. But this deep, at 7:30 at night? Something was wrong. Another hour passed, and my nerves were drawn taut like guitar strings. Just as I was about to convince myself it must have been the wind, a shadow appeared just outside my tent. The shadow spoke, its voice carrying an overly smooth, friendly inflection. "Hello? Is anyone there? Excuse me, I'm lost." Every hair on my body stood on end. I didn't answer right away. The person continued, "My phone died, and it's getting dark. I need help. Do you have a satellite phone? Or maybe a ride?" It sounded like a middle-aged man, with a hint of fatigue. This should have been reassuring, but I noticed a crucial detail. His voice was too close. He was right next to my tent, making no effort to keep a respectful distance. Crucially, there was no light from a flashlight. I took a deep breath, replying in the calmest voice I could muster. "I'm sorry, I don't have a satellite phone. There's no service here. I was just about to go to sleep. You can follow the path back. It's about 3 miles to the main road." He paused. Then his voice dropped lower, becoming more penetrating. "Oh, is that so? That's too bad. A young woman like you, all alone out here, on such a cold night. It's not very safe." I felt a surge of nausea. That wasn't concern, it was a test, a confirmation. "I have protection, and I'm going to sleep now," I stated. "Please leave." He didn't move. I heard him begin to walk, slowly, deliberately, around the perimeter of my tent. Each step was too light, too cautious, like he was surveying the area, not searching for an exit. Then, he stopped right behind my tent. "You got this set up fast," he said calmly, with a chilling casualness. "The spot we cleared last night is perfect." The word hit me like an ice pick. This was not a lost hiker. This was a trap. Adrenaline surged through me. My body was shaking, but my mind was laser-focused. I knew he was watching me. I violently ripped open the inner flap of my tent and grabbed my pepper spray. He hadn't expected the speed of my move. He was bent over, pushing back the brush behind the tent, and there it was, a freshly cut tree stump with a level wooden board placed on top. The board looked specifically placed, like a temporary workstation for some sort of operation. As he tried to reach through the tent's mesh vent, I yanked open the main zipper and bolted out. When he saw me, the fatigue in his eyes was gone, replaced by a cold, predatory flatness. Before he could react, I emptied the entire can of pepper spray directly into his face. He let out a tortured, animalistic shriek, clutching his eyes and stumbling backward. I didn't hesitate. With the sharp end of my hiking pole, I swung with all my might and cracked him hard across the knee. I heard a sickening snap and another agonizing scream. He went down. Just as I turned to run toward the path, I heard his scream, laced with pain and fury. "She's running. Get after her." Another voice. A muffled roar of acknowledgement came from somewhere deeper in the woods. Pure, unadulterated terror engulfed me. I ran toward the dirt path at the fastest speed I have ever managed, heedless of the branches whipping my face. I heard the frantic crunching of leaves behind me. My only thought was, run, get to the road, don't stop. I don't know how long I ran, 10 minutes, maybe an hour. I finally collapsed, breathless, on the gravel road before daring to stop. By some miracle, a large pickup truck with powerful headlights passed by. I rushed into the road, flagging the Good Samaritan down. He drove me to the nearest town, and I called the police. The police searched my campsite. They confirmed the cleared area and the struggle marks, but they found no one. They said they found signs of a struggle and blood, but the people were gone. I thought it was over. But then, a week later, I received an envelope. Inside was a hand-drawn, crude sketch of my campsite on a postcard, with no postmark or return address. On the back, there was just a single line of scrawled, handwritten text. "You ran too fast. Next time, remember your phone." I had never told anyone, not in texts or on social media, or even aloud, that I had packed that emergency satellite phone. I had only thought it. I've moved cities and changed jobs, but I can never truly be alone now. I always feel like someone is watching, waiting. They knew what I had, and they knew what I was thinking. And what chills me to the core is that word. Next time. I don't know who they are or what they wanted, but I know they are still out there, clearing another patch of woods. Even today, I can't stand the smell of pine needles and damp earth after it rains. It doesn't smell like peace to me anymore. It smells like sour tobacco, like something dripping from an attic. I was 28, on a 5-day solo hike in the Pacific Northwest. I wasn't a rookie, I'd prepped for months. But the rain in the PNW is something else. It had been a drizzle for 2 days, but on the afternoon of the 3rd day, the sky split open. This wasn't rain you could tough out. This was cold, heavy rain that soaked through my Gore-Tex shell in minutes. The temperature plummeted, and fog started rising from the trees like wet cotton. My fingers were already going numb, the first warning sign of hypothermia. I pulled out my paper map, already starting to disintegrate. But I saw it, a tiny square icon less than half a mile off trail, Ranger Station abandoned. In that situation, the word abandoned didn't matter. The word station did. I half ran, half stumbled through the darkening woods until I finally saw it. A small, dark-timbered cabin crouching in the shadows, beaten black by the rain. The door wasn't locked. It was slightly ajar. I hit it with my shoulder and stumbled inside. A thick smell of must and damp would hitting me in the face. I slammed the door shut, cutting off the roar of the storm. The cabin was pitch black. I clicked on my headlamp. The beam cut through the dark. It was basic, just a table and an overturned chair. But when I swept the light into the corner, my stomach dropped. There was a sleeping bag. It wasn't a modern, lightweight hiker's bag. It was an old, greasy canvas thing, unrolled and wrinkled. Next to it were several freshly opened Cliff Bar wrappers. "Hello!" I called out, my voice sounding small in the tiny space. No answer. Just the sound of rain hammering on the tin roof. I let out a breath. Maybe another hiker just left. Or they'd stashed the bag and were coming back. Whatever. I needed to get warm. I dropped my sopping pack and pulled out my little Jetboil stove and a packet of instant mashed potatoes. I needed hot water now. The stove hissed to life, its blue flame starting to heat the icy water I'd collected from a stream. That's when I heard it. Between the drumming of the rain, I heard a sound that didn't belong to the storm. It came from directly above me. Creak. It was the slow, deliberate sound of a floorboard taking weight. My blood went cold. I slowly angled my head up, my headlamp beam hitting the ceiling. There was a square trapdoor leading to a small attic. "Hello," I said, my voice shaking. I'm just getting out of the rain. I don't mean any harm." A dead, heavy silence. I could hear my own heart pounding in my chest. "It's a raccoon," I told myself. "A possum." I tried to believe it, but my hand was already gripping my trekking pole. Then something dripped. It landed on my wrist without a sound. I looked down. It wasn't water. It was brown and viscous, and it carried a sickening, sharp smell of tobacco. It was spit. Before I could even scream, the trapdoor overhead burst open, slamming against the ceiling. A massive shape dropped from the hole, landing on the floor and blocking the only exit. He was huge, dressed in filthy camouflage, his wet hair matted to his face. He looked like he'd been grown from the forest floor. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, grinning, revealing a mouthful of rotten, tobacco-stained teeth. Behind me, the Jetboil let out a high-pitched whistle. The water was boiling. He lunged. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't. It was pure instinct. I didn't reach for my pole. I grabbed the burning hot Jetboil. The instant before he touched me, I threw the entire pot of boiling water straight into his face. The sound he made is something I will never forget. It wasn't a human scream. It was a bestial, gurgling howl of agony and rage. Steam and scalding water flooded his face. He recoiled, clutching his head, knocking over the chair. I didn't wait to see. I ducked under his arm, ripped the cabin door open, and ran out into the freezing dark world. I had no pack, no food, no map. I was in my base layers and a wet shell. I didn't care. I ran. I ran through the storm, getting gashed by branches and tripped by vines in the dark. I fell in the mud, got up, and kept running. The only thought in my head was that I would rather freeze to death in the woods than be caught by him. I don't know how long I ran. Hours. All I know is that when the sun came up, I was collapsed by a creek, shivering and delirious. A search and rescue team found me later that morning. The irony is, they weren't looking for me. They were looking for another hiker, a woman who had been missing for 3 days. When I told them, babbling through hypothermia and shock, about the cabin, they called the police immediately. The police later told me the station had been officially condemned and scheduled for demolition 5 years earlier. They didn't find the man in the cabin. He was gone. But they found his collection in the attic. It wasn't just the sleeping bag. It was 3 different backpacks, several broken GPS units, and piles of women's hiking clothes, all neatly folded. They also found my pack, tossed in the bushes just outside the cabin, everything still in it, except for my hiking knife. That was gone.